everybody, it's Ringingworm here. We're going to do another video today. This time I thought we would break from what we've been doing with Transformers and Batman characters, and we'd focus on my personal favorite, the Man of Steel. That's right, we're going to focus on the Man of Steel, and also we're going to focus on what, in my opinion, and what most people I think's opinion of the best Superman is, and that's Christopher Reeve. Now, this particular figure is one that's debated on whether or not it's worth buying, but what we're going to talk about today is hopefully that'll change your mind and you'll end up picking it up if that's what you ultimately want to do. So, without further ado, guys, we're going to get started. This is the Superman 3 1/6 scale figure from Hot Toys, the MMS 207, and we'll go ahead and start reviewing it. Alright guys, so before we get into this too much into the meat, you're going to look at this figure and you might ask yourself, is there much difference between the Christopher Reeve normal version and this Superman? And I don't know how to necessarily answer that question, because it is, I can show you different versions of both. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put up little pictures from the movie itself, and I'll kind of show you where this look does fit the character in certain scenes before the end. Now, when he lands in the junkyard that you see behind you, he does have more of a messed up hair kind of look than he does right now. But up until that point, he really doesn't look much different than he does right now in this particular scene or setup, if you will. So let's talk really quick about the movie itself. So Christopher Reeve brought the Man of Steel to the silver screen, at least in a way that really kicked off the superhero movies, at least from that standpoint. And honestly, he should be the character that kicks that off. If you think about when Superman first hit the big screen, or excuse me, hit the comic book stands, was in 1938. Superman was the first comic book superhero, at least the way we look at superheroes today, was the absolute first superhero. And then he was followed up by Batman in 1939. So you have this character that symbolizes a lot of people's childhoods, a lot of people's feelings on what superheroes should be. And you have the first Superman movie, which came out in the 70s, and then you have the second one that I believe came out in 1980. And this is the third Superman. So if you guys remember, you had the Richard Donner Superman, which was filmed in the 1970s, and Richard Donner and Richard Lester filmed the second Superman, and Richard Donner filmed most of the second film because they filmed it all in one take, and then Richard Lester came in and he kind of added his own comic flair on it, and there's a little bit of that comedic type flair to the Superman 2 movie. Not a lot, but a little bit. And then Richard Lester directed 100% of Superman 3. And Superman 3, you can tell the difference between Superman 2 and the third movie, because the whole format has changed. Now, some of the music is the same, but it's been given more of a comical, upbeat kind, so to speak. And then the way the intro is, it's a lot of slapstick comedy in the intro, and then that gives you the introduction of Richard Pryor. And Richard Pryor, you know, a lot of people say absolutely shouldn't be in the movie. And then by the end of the movie, you have to look at it from a perspective of, was it a good movie or a bad movie? And that's kind of what I want to discuss mostly in this video. Is I think it was a good movie. I don't think it was a great movie. I don't think it was an Oscar-winning movie, but I think it was a good Superman movie, and I thought it was good for the right reasons, and it was certainly bad in a lot of different ways. Now, you're looking at the evil version of Superman. Now, if you look online right now, he is going to run you upwards of $350 to $400, depending on which source you get him from. And I did a lot of research before I bought this figure, before my wife bought this figure, and we got him for about $380. Now, when he originally came out from Sideshow Collectibles, I think he was in the same ballpark range as all the other superhero figures, in the $200, $250 range. And once he leaves there, he gets a lot more expensive. So why would a character based on a movie that was terrible by most critic accounts, and a lot of people wouldn't admit that they like it, why would it go for so much money? Well, there's two reasons. Well, there might be more than two, but there's two main reasons that I can think of. The first one is it's Christopher Reeves. And if you're a Christopher Reeves fan, you probably have to have this in your collection. And the second reason is it wasn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. There's a lot of things that are bad in the movie. So aside from the slapstick beginning, a lot of the movie is a good Superman movie. Superman travels back to Smallville. Along the way, he saves a burning, spoiler alert, he saves a factory on fire. All the elements that you'd want to see in Superman. Some people say that the ice scene was a little over the top and whatever. I mean, for me as a kid, when this movie came out, I think in 1982 or 83, I can't remember exactly what year it came out. It might not even have been that long. But I enjoyed just seeing Superman on the big screen. I mean, that he was my hero growing up. And seeing him on the big screen, I would have taken him in any way possible, but I enjoyed the movie. So you fast forward and you kind of see his relationship with Lana Lang in Smallville kind of flourishing, and then Richard Pryor kind of comes into the mix as a computer programmer, and he gives Superman this evil piece of kryptonite, and he ends up turning into a bad Superman. Well, if any of you guys are fans of the Superman character, you know that certain types of kryptonite will absolutely do this to Superman. In the Smallville series, red kryptonite did that. I think in a lot of different versions, red kryptonite really gave him that evil Superman persona. And then one thing I also want to add to is also, if you guys have been watching the new series Supergirl, there's a scene in the first or second season, I can't remember, where Supergirl kind of turns evil for a brief time, and there's a scene directly emulating from Superman 3. So again, why would they include that scene where she's flicking the bar nuts against the window? Why would they include that scene if it was such a terrible movie? And the answer is this movie has a special place in a lot of people's hearts, more than people want to admit. Now, there is a scene in Superman 3, which in my opinion is the most epic scene ever, where you can argue that it was an alternate version of Superman. You can argue that he was wrestling with his alter ego, but Superman has to fight himself. And that scene I thought was absolutely fantastic. And at the end of the scene, Superman redons his regular, really bright costume, and I'll show that picture. Hopefully I'll be able to find it online on this video, and you can see what I'm talking about. So he goes from that really darker colors to the really bright colors again, and you have Superman again. And I remember being a kid, guys, and watching him fight the evil Superman, and then him turn back into the good Superman. And his whole persona, I mean, Christopher Reeves really did have a range for acting. So he played that evil, drunken Superman as good as any actor, I think, could play an evil Superman. And then when he becomes the good Superman again, it's like night and day. The end of the movie I thought was just fine. I thought it was good with Richard Pryor in it included, whatever. I mean, it was an 80s film, and the 80s, guys, were a terrible time for colors and for all this other type stuff. But I thought it was a good episode of Superman. I thought the fighting with the evil supercomputer was amazing. You know, it kind of bridges that of, you know, if we give computers too much autonomy on the ability to think, or the ability to reason what would they do. It really gives that hacker mentality. And people say, oh, Richard Pryor was just terrible in that movie. And I'm like, I didn't mind his character at all. He ends up helping Superman in the end. So, I mean, why not Richard Pryor? I mean, he was a good actor. He was a good comedian and actor of his day. It wasn't as bad as everyone made it sound. So the question I have for you guys, and be honest, is what are your thoughts on Superman 3? I would love to hear your take on it. Like I said, Hot Toys made these figures. They made quite a few of them. And you can't get them from Sideshow Collectibles, first of all. And second of all, they go for a lot more money than some of the other figures. And I'll just give you an example. The only thing that's different about this Superman and a regular Hot Toys figure is this base, which is a Sideshow exclusive from Toy Fair. So he comes with this damaged row base, and they actually reused this in another one of their figures. And then you have that's it. That's all he comes with different. And then he comes with these hands and a specific box. So he's, as you can see, he's got his fists on him now. He's got 2 flying hands, and then he's got 2 just kind of half open hands. So he can't really do much with those particular hands. And guys, I'm not joking. This is his instructions. That's all he comes with. It basically shows him don't detach his belt and do not, and this is how his head moves. But he's clearly got more articulation than that. But that's all he came with for instructions. Now, one thing about this costume is his colors are definitely darker than the other Superman. And I will actually get that out of my case and I will show you guys. Okay guys, I'm back. So I'll just show you the side-by-side comparison. And as you can see, the regular version of Superman is a lot brighter in color. His boots are brighter, all that type stuff. You can see how much darker he is than the evil Superman. You can see the difference in skin tone on his face as well. And I'll get the evil Superman closer to the screen so you can really see the difference. Now, that is the Christopher Reeve Superman from the original movie and Superman 2. And again, this is the evil Superman. So you just saw the the good version, and so you get I'll get him as close as I can. Hopefully he'll be able to focus. You can see the darker, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but there's some darker facial hair on there. He's got some tired looking under his eyes. His hair is a little bit lighter, not a lot. You can see the darkness in his cape, even his Superman S shield in the back. His boots are a lot darker. And that is a big difference between the good Superman and this particular version. Now his posable is the same. He can move here at the arm up here, so you could twist his arm literally to get a different. Actually, I like that better a little bit, so I think I'll leave it like that. He's got movement in his shoulders. It's kind of on a ball joint, so you can like really lift those up. I mean, it moves up kind of. His arms move at his wrists. His ankles do move, but because he's got rubber boots, let's see if I can show you guys. So because he's got rubber boots, his ankles really don't move that much, and that's the same on the regular Superman as well. He does move right here. You can kind of see his rib cage. He does bend at that area. He bends at the waist area right there in the crotch area. He's got double jointed knees, so you can get really good poses. I have him standing on the rock pile. I think that's the way he should be because of the background that I have with him. But it might not be it might not be the way you want it necessarily. So you decide what you think is best. Let's see what else. Costume is a lot darker blue. You saw that. Now, one thing that his box does come with this kind of tinted cover, and you can see the difference in the Superman color underneath. I did think that was a nice touch, and that's basically it. There's not much different than what I've already described. So anyway, Superman 3. So is it as bad as everyone talks about, I guess, on media? I don't know what Rotten Tomatoes gave it. I'll look that up, and maybe I'll post a picture of it if I can. If not, then you know, just trust. You can go and look at Rotten Tomatoes. It didn't get the best reviews, like I said, mostly because it kind of diverged from the formula of the first two movies. And even the second one, in my opinion, diverged from the formula because of Richard Lester. The Salkinds, which are the ones that produced the movie pretty much, they really didn't understand the movie or the property as much. And that's why they went into Superman 3. And then by Superman 4, which I get was a bad movie, I liked again because I was a kid and I remember seeing it in the theater when I was a kid. So again, if you're older, let's say if you were born in 1970, you might not have liked this Superman at all. If you're like me and I was born in 1980, so when this Superman came out, I was just a little kid. I love the movie, and I do watch it every once in a while now. It's not that bad of a movie to me. I would love to hear your take on it, though. So, Superman 3, what are your feelings on the character? This is an extremely clean figure, guys. With the exception of his boots, he is all cloth. His cape is wired, so you can pose it in different ways. I like his S shield, all that type stuff in here. I love the different colors. Like I said, this is all fabric in here. This is fabric. His shield is more of a, I don't even know what to call it. It's kind of like a plastic cover, kind of like a t-shirt would have. You know, it's got that kind of same feel. The costume fits really well. I think it does a great job homaging to the original costume. I like his belt. I think that the way they design that, and I think the way it fits just works really, really well. I think that's one of the problems with a lot of other companies like Mattel when they do theirs, or when Barbie does theirs, or when third parties do their figures. Like if you used a Fison body, a lot of time, Fison guys, just so you know, they make 1/6 scale torsos and bodies and whatever that are seamless. And a lot of times their skin tone doesn't match what you want it to do, or they make the bodies, but they don't, and they make the costumes, but they don't make them at the same time. A lot of the costumes that you see online that are not licensed figures, like this Hot Toys figure has that problem. The costume just doesn't fit as well as you would like. So there's a lot of elements that you could argue are good and bad about going away from this. You can actually get, and I'll try to put a picture of that up, you can get a third-party sculpt of his head. So if you don't like the sculpt of his head that's on him, you can get a third party off of eBay or somewhere else where a person has looked at the model from the movie. They've sculpted it to where it looks just like that movie, more angry or whatever, and you can put that on his body, and then you have the evil Superman directly from the fight scene at the end, or excuse me, the junkyard scene at the end. So my camera just wants to keep moving down. Anyway, so guys, what are your thoughts on this Superman? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it worth purchasing this particular figure? Guys, if you're a Superman fan like me, you'll take Superman in any form, realistically. But I think he is absolutely worth the money. I remember I got this, I think, for Christmas or for my birthday. And I remember my wife did not want me to spend the money on it because it was so expensive. And I ended up talking her into it. I'm like, you know, I can not buy it and be miserable the rest of my life, or I can buy it and be happy. So she ended up buying it for me. That's how I swayed her. And I don't even know if I don't even know if I swayed it as much as she loves me. And that's one thing I'm blessed with, having a wife that understands this disgusting habit I have for buying these action figures. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I think it's going to be briefer than some of my other, it's going to be more brief than some of my other videos that I've been doing. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you think of Superman 3? Tell me what you liked about the movie, what you didn't like about the movie. Do you like the costume? Do you like this figure? Do you like this video in general? Guys, please comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe this video, and don't forget to share it with your friends. And I will see you in the next video.